Hi, I'm Todd Welsh, and welcome to episode 2 of the Community Leader Podcast. Today, we're going to be interviewing Amanda Otto from Big Brothers and Big Sisters, and we're going to be talking about the upcoming Pen and Ink auction, as well as the Bowl for Kids' Sake. All right, so we're here with Amanda Otto, and she's with Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Salina, and we're going to talk about the how community leader fits into Big Brothers and Big Sisters, because we were talking earlier before we started, and we were trying to figure out how that fit in with the model that we're trying to create here of community leader. And what I said is this is exactly it. You are a community leader because you are the CEO of Big Brothers and Big Sisters and everything that you guys do. So welcome, Amanda.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit about, we really want to concentrate this morning on the big effect of what's going to go on with the upcoming events you have. And we have 2 big events coming up for Big Brothers and Big Sisters. So let's start out right with those, and then we can hear a little bit more about the mission of Big Brothers, Big Sisters, how you arrived as the CEO, and a little bit about yourself as the community leader. So let's first talk about the Pen and Ink coming up.
Okay, perfect. Yes. So we are bringing Pen and Ink back. It kind of took a little break for about 3 to 4 years. And so we're excited to have that back this year. The event is on Monday, February 27th. It's at the Watson Room at the Stiefel. We have about 80 pens that have been created out of retired bowling pins. We have a stockpile of retired bowling pins, so that's kind of how Pen and Ink came to be a few years ago. And
so let's think about that real quick, because even now it makes sense for me. Like, I knew they were bowling pins, and then I'm just now like, I'm a little slow. Okay, so
I wasn't going to say anything.
I'm getting the so bowling pins. So Pen and Ink. So when I first, and even the listeners right now would be thinking maybe because it's a playoff of Pen and Ink where somebody would do a drawing of pen and ink.
Correct.
Yours is a bowling pin, which ties into the next event we're going to talk about later on, which is the Bowl for Kids' Sake.
Correct.
This is all
Look
coming
at that.
together.
Look at that light bulb.
I mean, it
just
took,
go
it
off.
did. Like, did the light get brighter in here?
I think so. I need some shades right now. I think it just clicked.
Okay, so that's what it is. So Pen and Ink. So my understanding then is that you have all these bowling pins left over, and you give them out to people, and then they paint them up, and then you're going to auction them or sell them.
We are going to auction them. We'll have a silent auction going on Monday. The event is from 5 to 7, but the bidding starts at 5 and closes at 6:30. And then we'll have a 30-minute period for gathering the bids, doing the checkout, and those kind of things. But they will all be on display in the Watson Room. We have a wide variety of pins that have been dropped off. They're really cool. The Vietnam Veterans chapter here in Salina did 3 patriotic pins in memory of some of the fallen soldiers. We have a couple Patrick Mahomes pins that are really cool. We wish they were autographed, but they're not.
I can do that for you.
Well, there you go. We can make a pin.
I've seen Patrick Mahomes' autograph. It's not that difficult. I can just scratch it.
Perfect. We just won't tell anybody. So we've got some really creative pins. Another one that comes to mind is somebody had taken a pin and they sliced it in half, and then they made a guitar out of one half of the pin, and then the other half is the stand for the guitar.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's a really cool piece of art. And so it's really neat to see the community members come, all their creativity kind of come to life, and all age range. We have kids that did some pins all the way up through adulthood. So it's really neat to see the community get involved in that. Plus, Pen and Ink is also a kickoff to Bowl for Kids' Sake. And so at Pen and Ink, we'll have a registration table there so you can come learn more about Bowl for Kids' Sake. You can register your team if you want, talk about fundraising, how all of that works.
Good. So let's think about this before we get out of Pen and Ink. And then you did a great transition right over to Bowl for Kids' Sake. So Pen and Ink is at the Stiefel Theater in the Watson Room.
Correct.
And it is February the
27th. So this Monday.
So we've got to get this podcast out so we can get it going for there. So our producer I heard him just kind of.
Yeah, I heard him groaning back there.
Big groan. Yeah. So we got to get this thing out and going.
He's got to get some work
February
done.
27th, Stiefel Watson Room. It's kind of a nice little kickoff for the Bowl for Kids' Sake. You can come bid on a pen. A lot of people, I know some friends of mine who collect the pens, and so their donation to Big Brothers and Big Sisters every year is to go down and buy a pen, and then they have this really nice collection going on. So I think it's a great idea. I was out on the website today for Big Brothers and Big Sisters. I was preparing for you to come in.
Nice. Look at you doing your research.
Doing the research on my guest. And I saw some of the pins from the past, and they are beautiful.
They are. They're amazing.
Some of the local artists really go out and do some really good stuff. So I think it features the artists. It raises money for the community. And again, that's the light bulb went off for me for the pen and ink. So let's transition that bowling pins into Bowl for Kids' Sake, which is your guys' largest fundraiser of the year to keep your organization going. So how long has Bowl for Kids' Sake been going? And tell us a little bit about somebody listening of how they could get a team together, where it's located, and the date and everything.
Okay. So I'll give just a little backstory of Bowl for Kids' Sake for a minute. Bowl for Kids' Sake has been going on in Salina for almost 50 years. It's just about as old as our agency is here in Salina. I have had the pleasure of talking with one of the board members that served on the Big Brothers Big Sisters of Salina board that helped bring Bowl for Kids' Sake to Salina. And basically it was when the agency was just getting started and they were trying to gather funding and all of that, they couldn't make payroll. And they said, all right, board members, open your checkbooks, or we need to figure out how to raise some money. And Bowl for Kids' Sake came out of that discussion.
Wow.
And he said the first year they raised like $3,000. It is very minimal compared to what it has grown into today. And we are very blessed to continue to have Bowl for Kids' Sake in our community. A lot of agencies around the country no longer have Bowl for Kids' Sake. So Salina is a very generous community, as you very well know. And that speaks volumes to be able to grow an event like Bowl for Kids' Sake.
And even think about what probably helped out amazingly was the new alley. I mean, we're going to plug the alley because I'm sure they give a great donation for you guys and just supporting that in there. The alley is amazing, downtown Salina. And I've done Bowl for Kids' Sake for 5 or 6 years probably, and so I have a lot of fun getting that done. But when we moved from the old bowling alley on Broadway to the alley, it just is, it feels like the community is, it feels like everybody in the community is there. I mean, it's such a neat event. The lights going off. You guys do an unbelievable job of timely getting everybody checked in and having the fun and the pizza. I mean, I'm really there for the pizza.
Well, who isn't?
The pizza and the beer.
Yeah,
pizza and the beer. So everybody watching knows that you can drink pizza and beer in Bowl and help your community out.
Absolutely.
I don't know why. I don't even know
how would you not want to be there?
How is that not a successful event in every community?
Absolutely. What more do you want?
What more do you want? Yeah, exactly. Maybe tacos. That would be. Now, if you really want to bring one more I want in there, if we could get tacos and pizza and beer, we'd blow it out of the park.
All right.
Something to think about.
2024.
You want to think about that?
That'll be our theme.
So if I want to get a team together, tell me a little bit about that, what your goals are to raise money and things like that.
Okay.
Just let me know.
So our overall goal for Bowl for Kids' Sake is to raise $100,000 for our programs.
That's quite a bit up from the $3,000 that they started.
It is, yes. I feel confident that we can do that, though, this year. I feel confident in our community, and I know that people will come through and make that happen this year. So the way that Bowl for Kids' Sake works is you form a team of 6. You can get your friends, your families, your coworkers. We don't care who you form your team with. And you fundraise to meet your team fundraising goal of $600. You can do that on social media. You can do that face-to-face in person, talking to people. We make it real easy because we have a website for each bowler that they can share on social media. They can text it out, email it to people, whatever their preferred method of communication is. And people can just make their donation right online. You don't have to mess with collecting checks and cash, and it's just very seamless. So when you do the math, that breaks down to a $100 fundraising goal per bowler. Very, very easy, very simple. And then we have 5 bowling sessions that day on April 1st. So the first session starts at noon and goes till 2 o'clock, and then 2 to 4, 4 to 6, and so on. Our last session starts at 8 o'clock. So the event is done at 10. So the earlier you form your team, the earlier we can guarantee we get you in the time slot, because the alley has 20 lanes in the front, and those are the lanes that we use all day for Bowl for Kids' Sake.
Okay.
So I encourage people, if they're looking to get a team together, start figuring out who that's going to be. Get your registration done on our website, or we have paper applications for those who prefer to do that. We still offer that.
Nice.
as
I
well.
bet you go through more beer on the 8 o'clock session than you go through the 11.
6 o'clock and 8 o'clock sessions are
That's what I'm going
the
to sign
beer's
up for.
flowing. Yes, those
See,
are some. They're all fun times.
They
but-
are all fun times. So usually I was on the police chief's bowl for kids' sake. So that would be the police departments. I guess he put that together. And we did drink responsibly. We had people come pick us up, give a little
good.
code out there.
Yes.
But he always wanted to bowl at 11 o'clock. And I'm like, who drinks beer at 11 o'clock? Apparently I did. I drank beer and pizza at 11 o'clock, and I had a great time. I had a great time. But I'm thinking at 8 o'clock I'd probably drink more beer, and so I may need to get a team together. Can I get a team together still?
Absolutely.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do.
SalinaHomes.com needs a team.
Yeah, we're not even going to do SalinaHomes.com.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, we could do a SalinaHomes.com team and a community leader team.
Perfect.
And we'll have T-shirts all made up, and we'll just do that.
And it's a competition of who raises the most money.
Yeah, so Matthew, my producer right there, he's going to be on my there's only 2 of us employed. We're a very low-budget community leaders.
Okay.
Just getting
Entry
started.
level. Okay.
Very
I
low budget.
understand. Okay.
So we're going to have to recruit 4 other people.
Okay.
And to get that done. But I will make a promise to you that we'll have a community leaders bowling team this year.
Okay.
And then I'll have to get the agents together on the SalinaHomes.com one and see if we can make that happen. We'll go down and talk to Linda and make sure that she heads that up to get that done. So that's Bowl for Kids' Sake. Anything else you want to talk about that? That's April 1st.
April 1st.
When do they have to get their teams in by?
So we will actually take team registrations up to the day of the event as long as we have time slots available.
Okay.
So it's really you're risking whether we have availability for your team or not if you don't get your registration in early. So at this point, there is no cutoff for teams. If we sell out of the lanes, we'll let everybody know. So I just encourage people, why wait? Get your team together, get it registered.
Yeah, Matthew, fill it out the profile right now, Matthew,
right.
for us. Just get it all done. He's back there filling that out. Okay, and then in 20 seconds or less, let's talk about the Hook and Slice. That's your 3rd event that you do for fundraising that's in the community, and it's a Hook and Slice golf tournament. Do you remember the dates for that this year?
I do remember the dates.
Okay.
It's June 2nd this year. It is going to be up at Great Life Golf and Fitness area, and it is on a Friday. Okay. So we do it on a Friday, and that way people can work in the morning if they need to, and then only take half a day off. The start time is 1 o'clock. We provide a box lunch, beverages, flow throughout the day. We have fun games out on the course.
You can say beer here. It's okay. Beverage, yeah.
There's beer on the course.
Thank you. Yeah. You just upped your ratio of attendance by half by saying that.
True.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so Hook and Slice, and that's a great tournament. I've played in that a couple times. I'm not a big golfer. I'm not even a big beer drinker, but it's once you get around great people in the community and people who are all serving a mission and stuff like that, it's kind of fun just to be out in the community,
right?
Supporting big brothers and big sisters.
Absolutely.
So anything else you want to add about that?
I was just going to plug the Frosty Fun Run.
Forgot about that. It's not on your website. I didn't see that as an event.
It's not until November, and we have to nail down some dates and some details before we announce that. But it is the Saturday before Thanksgiving. Historically, we're trying to keep that date this year. But Frosty Fun Run is a 5K 1 mile. We also have the Santa Sprint where kids get to put on their Santa hats and run a half a block, and they just have a great time. So it's a good family fun event. If you're a runner, if you love to walk, put it on your calendar and can be looking for that registration too.
So my daughter and I did that. Mackenzie and I did the Frosty K one time because I'm no longer a runner. So this was maybe 5-6 years ago we did it. That was a good time. So we got those events, Frosty K, great events that you guys put on to raise money. And where does the money go? Let's transition into the daily operations of Big Brothers Big Sisters, the mission, and where does the money go?
Absolutely. That is the main reason we do what we do. So all of the proceeds that we raise from these great events go to support our one-to-one mentoring programs. And so we have different programs that we host within the community. And so I don't know how detailed we want to get into our programs with this. I could sit and talk with you about this all day long.
Well, let's just stay on the surface.
Okay.
So the surface, the general concept, and here's what I think about Big Brothers Big Sisters when I think about it. You're looking for community people who want to mentor and help the youth of our community.
Correct.
Through that, you could be it could be a male to male, it could be female to female, or as I was telling you before, my wife and I, many years ago, had a little, and we chose a male as a little, and we would do things together, and then basically David and I would go off and kind of do stuff on our own and do some stuff. And one of the best memories I have is helping him build his Pinewood Derby car, because he was in Boy Scouts as well. And so I can remember being in the garage, and because I did Pinewood Derby car when I was in Boy Scouts. And so it was, I remember that. Like, you know what I mean? Like I can remember in my garage right now helping him build that, and him, you know, we putting the weights in it and the graphite on the wheels, and me telling him the story of how I think I took third place. I'm not going to say I took first, but I think I took third place. I knew exactly where to put the graphite on the wheels. But I remember that, and it helped the community, and I remember going and being involved with that. And so if anybody's listening to this and they want to take that opportunity, how would they become a big or a little for Big Brothers and Big Sisters?
Absolutely. I'll talk a little bit about that process, but I want to touch on real quick the fact that we have 87 youth sitting on a wait list right now who are waiting for a big. To be a big, you commit an hour a week to a child. Just as you have described, it's just spending time with the child. You're not adopting the child. You're not raising the child. You are there to be in their corner, to be somebody that they can talk to. As we go through life, we all need mentors, whether you are a child or whether you are an adult. You need a mentor in your life to kind of guide you and kind of help you, especially as teenagers. They go through so much. I remember being in high school and just all of the drama and all of the stuff like you're going through middle school and all of the changes when you're a teenager. So trying to just have that person in their corner to really help them. And so if somebody's interested in being a big or a mentor to a child, they can go on our website and fill out an application. From there, our enrollment specialist will then contact them to start the next process, which is interview, training, background screening, all of that fun stuff that we have to do before we can match you with a child. That process takes about 30 to 45 days. So from the time you submit your application, you can figure about 2 months before you actually meet your little. But we do a very stringent screening and background check to make sure that the volunteers in our program are safe, reliable mentors when they take this child out into the community.
Yeah. I think that's great. I had forgotten about that whole interview process, you know, that Pam and I went through, and again, it's worth it. It's taking a little bit of time on there. I also have friends that have done it throughout the years, and they talk about their little or their big, or they're spending the Saturday afternoon with them. But I think that's just it. And then I think remembering off the website, what's the age? 5 to 18? I think your littles.
Correct. Minimum age is 5. If there are parents out there that are looking for just an extra support, or a guardian that's looking for support for a child, they can also enroll their child on the website as well. If you have trouble with technology or that's just not your thing, you can always call our office, go email us, stop in. You know, we're there in the office. I always encourage people, even if you're on the fence about it, just give us a call or stop in and ask those questions. That's what our staff is there for. We want to give you as much information up front so you feel comfortable about the process and you know what the expectation and the responsibilities are.
Right. Speaking of stopping by, let's tell them where you're located at, just so they can get an idea in the community where you're at.
We are across from the train in the park. 500 Kenwood Park Drive is our address. Phone number is 825-5509. Okay. So call us.
So where the Kenwood Cove is.
Correct.
And then there's the train in the park across the street. And then you're just catty corner to that, to the south.
Kind of on the corner of that really racetrack curve right there.
Yeah, I'll give them a play. It used to be Serene Photography.
Correct.
So if anybody remembers back in the day where Serene Photography was, that's now where Big Brothers Big Sisters is located.
Correct.
And they could stop in and just check out to be a big of what that process would look like for them. Okay, well, let's transition. Anything else you want to talk about of the mission of Big Brothers Big Sisters before we talk a little bit about you, your staff, and what you guys do on a daily basis in the community? So one last thing about Big Brothers Big Sisters. Is it a is it is it national?
So we are affiliated with Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. And without getting too far into details and in the weeds on this podcast, even though if anybody's interested, I would love to talk to them about it. We are held to a standard through Big Brothers Big Sisters of America to keep that affiliation. So training requirements, case management requirements, insurance requirements, training, all of that. We have standards that we have to comply with in order to keep our affiliation. We also have quality assurance checks that happen every quarter to make sure that our program staff is doing what has to be done to keep the bigs and the little safe, and that we are following all of those processes and procedures. So yes, we are affiliated nationally. The great thing about our Salina agency is we are independent. So 100% of all of the donations and money that we raise stays in our community. It doesn't go to Wichita. It doesn't go to Kansas City. It stays right here in Salina, and it supports the youth in our community. A lot of the agencies around the country cannot say that because they're like an umbrella agency of a bigger.
They send a portion of that off to be
correct,
with that charter.
And then they distribute it however they want. But we have a local board of directors, local staff, so it's great. I kind of call us on this little island because there's only 3 independent agencies left in Kansas, and Salina is one of them. So very proud of that with our agency. And that's all based on our community, the generosity of our community, and everybody that has come before me who has made Big Brothers Big Sisters what it is in Salina.
Yeah. Great. Let's transition into you now.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Everybody loves to talk about themselves. Yeah. Well, as we were talking before downstairs, kind of pre-talking what we were going to talk about on there, I thought you said something interesting, and it was, gosh, Todd, I don't view myself as a community leader. And tell me a little bit about what you said down there was beautiful, so I don't want to miss that again. So what did you say downstairs?
Well, I don't know if this is verbatim what I was saying, but when you talk about community leaders, you think about like the Charlie Walkers of the community, and you think about like Jason Ingermanson and those businessmen and women that have really made Salina what it is, and really kind of put their footprint on Salina. And I guess I don't gauge me as being in that community leadership role. And the reason I say that is because Big Brothers Big Sisters is something that is a lot bigger than myself. I am very privileged to be able to be leading that agency, but it's not. I don't see it as my work. I see it as the bigs, the volunteers, the community, the partners that come alongside us. What we do with youth mentoring is way bigger than anything that I could ever do on my own. Individual. It is a collective effort, and it takes a lot of people to do that. So to think of Amanda Otto as this community leader, I just don't. It's just not in me.
Well, but you have to think about that though, because with all of that, somebody has to drive the bus. I mean, somebody has to be in charge, and somebody has to move it in the direction, and somebody has to keep. I mean, it started in 1968, and it's grown to what it is today. Somebody has to keep that moving forward. And obviously the board, through all the interviews and everything they did, they looked at you and said, okay, this is the new person to lead us down the path of where it is. How long have you been the CEO of Big Brothers?
It will be 4 years in July.
Okay.
So I am born and raised in Salina, never left. Love Salina. It is near and dear to my heart. We have a great community here, and anything that I can do to be a part of bettering Salina and helping it grow into what it hopefully will be for many years to come. That's a pretty cool feeling, just to have a little piece of that progress.
Yeah. Yeah,
so.
It's a big role. I mean, it's very well known in our community. I mean, as well as the other non-for-profits. I mean, you think of the CAPS of the world, and I think of you guys right up there in United Way. And but this is exactly why what we're doing right now. So think about everything we talked about, Big Brothers Big Sisters. But when I was creating community leaders in my mind, of course, I would love to interview the Trace Walkers and the Jason Ingermanson and Chad Kassam, and like those guys are all coming up. Like those guys are all going to be interviewed on here. And I want to know who they are, where they came from, what community means to them, how they stay involved, how they're running these big organizations. Yes. But the truth is, those guys aren't doing some of the stuff of what like yourself are doing in the community every day. I mean, you just mentioned you were on a radio station before you came here, and you're going to go hold an event at the Stiefel Center. And honestly, not taking anything away from those guys, but it takes a village.
It does.
You know, you've heard that before. It takes a
does.
village, and it takes a certain amount of community leaders to step forward and be the CEO of Big Brothers and Big Sisters. It takes people to be in charge of the PTA at the local school. It takes all these people to be church leaders. It takes leaders inside of Salina to make what it is. And I had not, you've been there for 4 years, and I do a lot of stuff for other non-for-profits on there, but I wasn't embarrassed. But when we were talking on the phone the other day, I literally had to ask the question. And, you know, I'm not embarrassed much anymore. So I just said, Amanda, this is going to be the dumbest question in the world or what. I was like, but do we know each other? And your comment was, which was very flattering to them, like, well, I know you because I see you out in the community, but you may recognize me or you may not when I was here. And I didn't, but this is exactly what it is. I want to know in my community, and I want to get it out to the other community. I want them to know who you are, what you're doing, what your mission is, how big your heart is, and just to get to know the people who are kind of running the community. So when they see you out at all these events, they're going to go, oh, there's Amanda from Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And there are many people that we know who have been in these roles for a long time that you just know when you see somebody, you know what affiliation they are with. And so I think that's going to be great that you're going to take on the role. Now, you do move on. You know what I mean? We've had many directors and CEOs throughout my year of living in Salina for 30 years. And I've watched 4 or 5 different CEOs come through, and they evolve, and they take it to where it needs to go, and then they move on. So we'd love to have you there for life. You know, that would be great, but someday you may move on. So personally, let's go a little bit personally on there. Tell me a little bit about your family. And then you said you were from Salina. So what schools did you go to?
So I went to Salina. I lived west of town. And so I graduated from Salina. I'm not going to tell you what year because that would date me. And I'm very young. No. So yeah, born and raised here. My dad actually had a business here in Salina. He was a self-educated entrepreneur, and that is the environment that I grew up in. I watched him work really, really hard to build a business, to grow it into what it was. And as I sit here, and that is what I had in my mind for the rest of my life. Amanda was taking over the. Can we ask that? Sure. It started with Clark's TV and Communications, console TVs, two-way radios.
Yep, right over on South Street. Is that right?
Started on South Street.
See, I remember that now.
When my first location remembrance was next to Sherwin-Williams, where I think there's a beauty supply store there now on Planet Avenue. Okay. And then we were on Duval, and so different locations. But so that was kind of my upbringing. And then it transitioned into what was called Clark Wellness, when Walmart started, carrying, the big box stores came to be, cell phones came to be. So there were no two-way radios,
right.
Innovation was happening and things were changing. And so Clark Wellness was then morphed, where that business concentrated on wellness products, massage products that we manufactured and exported all over the country, basically, from here in Salina. And so when my father passed 5 years ago, the business closed. And so it was one of those, now what is Amanda going to do with her life? Because Amanda hadn't thought past family business. And so I was led to Big Brothers, Big Sisters. I feel it was definitely a divine intervention, because if you would have asked me at that time if I was going to go work for a nonprofit, I would say no. I will go volunteer for a nonprofit. I will support them with my treasures, but I am in the private sector, and that's all I know.
Yeah.
And here I am 4 years later, and I am absolutely loving it.
It comes through. So, I can feel, when you talk about it, even when we were talking pre-interview down there, just the passion you have for community service, and especially Big Brothers and Big Sisters, it really came through. So it's interesting to hear that story, because that's a great entrepreneurial story. And what came to mind here was, I started chuckling in my head. I don't know your dad, but I can imagine he's something like my dad. And I could see him sitting there at Clark TV back in the day going, cell phones. I mean, who's going to carry a phone with them all day long? That's never going to work. Like, everybody's got to have a two-way radio, two-way radio and a walkie-talkie and a CB. Like, everybody's got to have a CB handle, like nobody's going to carry a phone with them. Like, but back then, we used to carry the phones. They were this big.
Bag phones,
bag phones, we'd carry them. So.
Oh, yeah, when Kansas Cellular came to town.
That was big
on
news.
Magnolia and 9th Street.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. My wife, I met when my wife and I were married, she worked at Kansas Cellular.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's was her very first job. Not very first job, but one of the big jobs. When Kansas Cellular came to town, she worked there. And I thought it was so cool because I had the bag phone, because she got a free bag phone, so I would put it in my car and all that stuff. But anyway, that's a
$6 a minute or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I'm telling myself, like I was telling somebody this story the other day. Like this is where the fun comes in. Back then we had an antenna on the car. Okay. And I would just pull up the stoplight and just pick up the cell phone, pretend like I was talking to somebody, just so I look cool. Like there was because none of my other friends had a cell phone at that time. You know what I mean? Like I was dialing the president. They wanted them to think I was talking to somebody very important, and so I had the bag phone. And it was all plugged in and hardwired in and all that. But anyway, so I think I get excited because I can think of I never met your dad. I just remember the Clark TV that's on there, and I can imagine the evolution of what he made to make that happen. And you were there as an entrepreneur watching that whole process, and we would have never known what it evolved to today. So I like the background that you have from this entrepreneurial background in your dad, and then you coming up through that, and then now moving into serving the community in a totally different way. Because believe it or not, your family served the community
absolutely
back in the days of the needs that they had. If we didn't have them back in the day, they wouldn't be serving the current community that they were doing. So that's, again, I'm hoping to learn so much from just doing this from people in the community that I would have never have known that was your family business. I know the business.
Yes.
I knew the business, but I didn't know that was your family business that did that.
Yep.
Cool. Where do you go from here then? Like thinking of, is there a big... Are we thinking of, like how big can Big Brothers and Big Sisters get? And what's your vision of where Amanda wants to take Big Brothers and Big Sisters?
There is a huge need in our community. There is a huge potential for growth with Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and it's going to take everybody in our community to make that happen, whether it's time, whether it's treasures, your talents. Everybody has something to give. I mentioned the 87 kids on our wait list. And as you were talking about community leaders, I kind of got a chill because when we talk about the kids that we serve, the intention is, number one, to help them through these tough times, get them through school. If they want, post-secondary education, maybe help, segue into that. If they want to enter the workforce, great, whatever that plan looks like for that child. But the ultimate goal is to keep these kids here in Salina. The kids that we're serving are the future community leaders.
Oh, very well
of
said.
Salina.
Very
they
well
are.
Said.
And the youth, they are our future. And we have to invest in them, because if we don't invest in them, who is going to do that? These kids want a mentor. This is not a court-ordered program. This is not something that they're being forced to do. The kids in our program want somebody in their life to advocate for them, to talk to them.
Yeah.
There was some recent numbers that came out that 1 in every 3 youth in America do not have a mentor. They don't have a positive role model. They don't have maybe parents are gone, whatever the situation is. So think about that. 1 in 3 children in our community do not have a mentor. And that's what our agency is here to change.
Yeah.
So as we talk about growth, the need is there. The kids are there. We just have to find the volunteers. So coming out of COVID, our wait list kind of on average was about 40 to 50 kids. When the schools opened up and the kids started going back into the buildings, the social workers and the counselors within the schools were obviously seeing that social isolation piece. They were dealing with the learning loss and everything that our educators had to go through with COVID and then post-COVID with our kids. And so at that time, our referrals started flooding in from counselors, social workers, because they knew these kids needed somebody. So our wait list goes from 40 to 50 to almost 120 kids in 3 months.
Wow.
We're a small age. I mean, we have a big impact in the community, but when you look at the old Serene building, it doesn't hold a lot of staff people, you know. So our team is small, but we're mighty. So when we look at 120 kids, we really had to put our heads together, the board. What are we going to do? We can't just keep doing what we're doing. Coming out of COVID, people, the way they looked at how they spend their time with their families or their extra time completely changed. So we're struggling now more than ever to have people come in and volunteer to be a big. So what came out of that was 2 new programs that we launched in August of last year. We launched them as pilot programs just to see if they were even going to work before we went, you know, big time with them. So the first one we launched with Bennington State Bank, and we called it Corporate Bigs. And Bennington State Bank allows their employees an hour a week during the workday to go into an elementary school and mentor their little.
Oh, what a great idea.
So whether it's recess, lunch, breakfast, we don't take away from their learning time, but we fit that in with the little schedule as well as the bigs. That has just, the impact from that, like I get chills just talking about it, it's just been instrumental on the big side, but then also the littles. They were so excited to have this big, and especially in school. Like they were just top dog. I have this big coming into the school every week. So that program is going to be growing. And so we are looking for more businesses to partner with who would want to offer that to their employees. So if that's something, if anybody's listening to this that would be interested in offering that to their employees, I encourage them to reach out, call the office and ask for me. I know we played phone tag like forever, so I hope that doesn't happen. I apologize to anybody if I play phone tag with you. And then the second program I want to hit on is called Beyond School Walls, and we piloted that program with Vortex. This is kind of a career readiness program that brings a little bit of a curriculum to it. These are high school students that we take into Vortex twice a month. So they get to go into a working business and see everything that goes into it, the customer service piece, the HR piece, the cool manufacturing. Now they're not on the floor. Their safety precautions that Vortex is taking. But they're learning all of that. And those are things that they wouldn't be exposed to otherwise without this program. And then the curriculum piece comes in because they learn how to write a resume, how to interview well, conflict resolution, how to work together as a team.
That's a whole other agency right there. I mean, those 2 programs you just talked about would take a tremendous amount of effort and time and just to manage those things, to put all the logistics together for that. So kudos to you guys for pulling that all together. And again, I'm learning more. I mean, didn't even know you had those programs. Obviously, they're new.
Right.
But my small little mind thinks Big Brothers Big Sisters, Bowl for Kids' Sake, pen and ink, selling off some bowling pins and helping people in the community. But you guys are really doing some great stuff.
We are. And on top of all of that, we're still hosting our other programs, which is the community-based program, which is the largest one. That's the one that we talk about a lot. You are matched with a child. You can get to go do things in the community. That's 70% of our resources, 70% of our matches right now. And then we have a site-based program where we do, where we have high school kids who are mentoring elementary or middle school kids. And so that program is going on with Central and Lakewood, as well as out at Salina. And so all of those programs we're looking at expanding. Of course, it takes funding, takes more staff. And we have the kids. We just need the people and the volunteers to make it work.
Yeah, the people and the funding. So we got to end the podcast.
I know, I told you I could sit here all day.
I know. I was like going, this is about 26 minutes, and I think we're way over that. But again, I didn't want to shut it off because I didn't know you guys were doing all that. Like, as the more we're sitting there going through it, it's really, really good stuff. But what I'm taking away from here is you need some people to step up from our community and be bigs. Correct. You got a big waiting list.
We do.
There are people in our community who are looking to help the community, and they could do it by, they don't have to go buy a pen, they don't have to go bowl, but they could just write a check that would help out everything that you guys are talking about that you're doing in the community. There are people who could just attend the Pen and Ink, which is coming up. Put a bowling team together of 6 people. They could help out that way. The hook and slice tournament, and then everything else that you're doing from there.
Yes.
Okay. Now, here's my last. I kind of prepped you for this because we end every one of ours by asking this question. If you were only given 24 hours left to live by a doctor and you had to stay in Salina, where are the 3 places you would have your last 3 meals? And it can't be at home. Can't be, oh, my husband's a great cook, I want to do that. 3 community places that you could grab a meal. I want to know breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So put you on the spot. You've actually had a little bit of time to think about this, okay? So breakfast, where would you eat your last meal in Salina, Kansas?
Russell's.
Russell's Restaurant.
With pancakes. Massive pancakes.
This is all you could eat. Okay. Russell's. Number 2 would be then after you went home and took a nap from the pancakes, you would have to eat lunch. Where would you eat lunch?
Cozy's.
Cozy's. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not going to get Cozy's again.
That's true.
You know?
That's true.
As I thought about my 3rd meal, Salina has so many great restaurants. This was it was challenging for me. And so I appreciate you giving me the heads up because otherwise I would sit here blubbering all over this microphone trying to figure out where it was. So as I thought about my 3rd meal, I was going to go for American food, but I thought it's my last day on earth. I have got to have Mexican food.
Nice.
So that would be La Curva with quite a few margaritas on the rocks with salt.
So La Curva's on Ohio Street.
Correct.
In the old Pizza Hut that's there.
Correct.
Interesting.
Yes.
I like those.
So
we're going to start out. I would see. So if I ever run into you in a during of a day and I see you at Russell's and then I see you at the Cozy's eating and then at La Curva, I'm just going to give you one of those because I know it's your last day.
And say, hey, it's great knowing you.
It's great knowing you.
Yes.
Let me get you another margarita.
Yes. That
Awesome.
would be great.
Amanda, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Big Brothers Big Sisters has been a lot of fun. I love getting to know you.
Yes.
Now I feel like I know you so much better. And when I see you out in the community, we can connect from there. Thank you for doing it.
And when I wave to you, you'll know who I am.
I know who you are now.
You'll wave back.
Yeah, I'll wave back and I'll be like, oh, yeah, exactly.
No, I know who that is. So.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you so much.
Sure.
And good luck with everything you're doing at Big Brothers Big Sisters. I think they're underneath good leadership. And I appreciate everything you're giving back to the community. So thanks
Absolutely.
again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.